Johnny Wharff in another spotlight interview for our 2024 Marietta High School Athletic Hall of Fame. A great pleasure to have Bill Ross Jr. In studio with us. Kind of cool to be able to do this. I'm glad to get to show you around up here. But for the listeners, I'm going to jump right back to 1979, maybe even a little before the class of 1979, because you and I got to be a part of really something special when you think about, and I would just say the vibe in Sutton Gymnasium from, for me, say 74 to 79, just a crazy different thing that I can ever remember.
Yeah, I can agree, and that's about when it seemed to take off. It was a pretty exciting.
So start as a fan or a young player. Talk a little bit about coming up through in terms of who were maybe some of your mentors or the guys that you looked up to.
Oh gosh, I had a little different opportunity, being my father was the athletic director, so I was a little gym rat, and I was in the gym a lot, and obviously I followed the team, from the time the gym was, in the late 60s. So, I mean, I can remember, looking down on the bench and seeing all the guys, and, and then following through into the early 70s. I think we got 100 points against Warren one time. I was exciting as a young guy watching that stuff. And you went through, and we were at that age, and you remember the team. I think 70, 73, 74.
Sure.
They were starting to really get excited and compete in the COL. And it just seemed to continue on through the 70s for us, and by the time it got to 79, and to see that gym, as a fan, it would be kind of neat. It was, as a player, it was awesome, but it was standing room only, and a lot of the games, particularly towards the end of the year when we were working our way towards the championship. So it was a pretty exciting time.
Yeah, my high school years, and again, I always say I peaked athletically at age 7, but I was the guy that was painting the face and dressing up.
Oh, yeah.
And our whole class, it seemed like, was doing that in the gym.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was as much fun, I think, for all the student body. It was the pep band was, you didn't have to encourage them to come. They were part of it, and all the students. It was a really fun atmosphere, that's for sure.
Since you brought up your dad as athletic director, and many folks remember Bill Ross Hall of Famer as well, but coach, truant officer, Pappy, all the different names we knew him as. But was it talk a little bit about maybe how he worked with you, or was it tougher because he was in that position for you?
No, I think he just made it available for me. Obviously, he would encourage it, but he really just made things available. I mean, and as a result, maybe he'd be up on a Sunday evening working in the office, and I'd be in the gym by myself, and that would be my kind of babysitter or whatever, for basketball and a couple of drills to hear, I'll be back later. So, but really he was just a real positive influence in that regard.
Speaks a lot to the talent, and again, as far as I'm guessing you're playing at a young age when the guys like, and again, this is when I start naming names and I shouldn't, but you think about like Ray Nazers and Bill Sutton and Brad Beal, and again you start thinking back to some of those, the Geislers and some of those guys, and that kind of laid the groundwork early. And there was Charlie Gill into Ed Paxton, I think, but were you a part of that transition?
It was going on. As I was in the junior high, I believe, in that kind of area, that both of those guys, the Gills and the Paxtons, were, that summer league that we used to have at the Jackson Pool was where most people learned to play. I mean, we had a big presence of older guys coming back to play with them on through the summer development programs, and now you've got all the different traveling balls and things to learn and to get experience. But back in that time, it was the summer programs that really gave us a chance to blossom and get out of the maybe you're pigeonholed in one area, but you get to try new things, play with new guys, learn a lot of things from some older, more experienced guys that you had looked up to too as you were growing up. So
that and again, a great memory. And these are how these interviews go, by the way. For the listeners, I just want to impress upon them when you bring up Jackson Poole, and they know where old Jackson Poole is now, and the courts are still up there. But that back in the day, under the lights that were kind of unique at the time as well, right?
Yeah.
But it was better than the Starlight, drive-in. To be able to sit there, you didn't think about mosquitoes or how hot it was. It was like being, in New York watching it was you skin your knee, you bleed, you turn your ankle, tough luck. Sit over there. I got somebody else that'll come in, right?
Yeah. It was neat. It was a they put a scoreboard up on somebody went and got a nice scoreboard. It was a big production, and everybody participated. It was really a good program, and it took a lot of effort and a lot of volunteerism. I mean, the coaches weren't paid to do all that kind of thing. They did it for the love of what they were doing. So,
how about Billy Ross? Have you been to that all your life? Is that a preference, or Bill Jr.?
There's been a lot of things I've been called. I answer to most, but it just depends on who. Who it is.
That's funny. I probably prefer Johnny more than anything, just because that's what I'm used to. So, but that being said, Bill Ross, we're going to talk a little bit more about this special class in 1979. When we come back, we're talking to 2024, actually two-time Hall of Famer, also in the Mid-Ohio Valley Athletic Hall of Fame, Bill Ross Jr., and we'll be back with more right after this. Johnny Wharff in our 2024 Spotlight interview with Bill Ross, class of 1979. I interviewed Tom Baker from the class of 60. So if there's 2 years, and then anybody can argue this that they want to, I don't know that they'll win the debate, but if there are 2 years that rise to the top in terms of looking back, 1960, 1979, just kind of iconic from a basketball, football, whatever sport you want to put in their standpoint. So talk about some of the athletes, some of the teammates, and was it that good up through the levels, meaning back down into the middle school and up?
Hey, I can agree. Those early '60s, and there's more than probably 1 year, but there was a lot of talent come through, and I got to hear a lot about it because Dad, like Baker is a name that Dad would talk about a lot. Some of those guys with Baker and Christie and some of the older generation that went through there. But yeah, in our class we had a depth across the board. It seemed like of athletes in all sports. It seemed our baseball program was in a Final Four. The basketball program was in the top 10. The football program was in the top 10 until I guess in mid-season anyway. But I think we played Zanesville and we were 4th and 5th in the AAA at the time in the state, and that was quite a game. We had an awful lot of depth, I think, of people throughout the whole class.
Yeah, and winning breeds winning, and I think about those guys, and or they still seem like, at least I saw at the townhouse, I don't know if it was the summer or whatever, but just a pack load of guys in there from that were from that class of 79.
Well, it may have been the time. I mean, there was a little mini reunion on some of the guys that were at the Bronco World Series, so that was also the group as we were coming up. So it just worked its way through, starting I guess clear back in the early 70s when that was going on, and it just continued on through.
All Ohio, second team in basketball senior year, first team All COL, honorable mention, 42 points in one game, I think. That's that Grove City game you're talking about, I think, and then 21 field goals. Was it in that same game?
Yes, yeah.
And then averaging 20 points a game over the course of those years. Back then, and I always hate to say back then, but gosh darn, it was a long time ago, brother.
It was.
That was kind of unheard of to have those kind of numbers. Did you realize it at the time?
No, we were just playing games and trying to win, and we probably averaged 75 points a game back at that time, and no 3-point line and 8-minute quarters. I mean, we were getting up down the floor, and it was fun. The kind of basketball we played, we pressed a lot. We had 5 guys in double figures. I might have had 20, but we had 5 other guys right. Because if we didn't have 6, we had 5.5 guys in double figures. So we had a lot of. It was a whole group of us that were having a lot of fun getting up and down the floor.
Bill Ross Jr., our guest, in 1979, Marietta High School, 2024 inductee into the Marietta High School Athletic Hall of Fame. So come out of Marietta High School to Marietta College, excelled in some records in the books there as well. And then, I think of Leanne. I should know more of your family, but talk a little bit about the family aspect of the game. You talked about your dad a little bit, but then it spread on down through as well.
Yeah, it did, and it's been fun with my daughters too. I've had three daughters, Kristen, Lauren, and Leanne, and they all participated in Marietta College athletics and several different sports, but basketball seemed to come to the top. I got involved in the junior high program with them, helped them kind of move up and to the high school level, and then stepped away at that point. But just felt like I ought to give back to them and try to help guide them in the right direction. So it's been a fun run, and then in Leanne's case, she was able to go on and play in college and was able to chase that around for quite a few years at the University of Charleston. So it's given back a lot to us.
That's fantastic. And then I guess from I always say, especially around the kids, and I've said this to a couple of my guys that I interviewed, Scott Strahler and Shauna for sure, that and you've already been able to do it because you're a 2-time Hall of Famer, if not more. But you can put that HOF, MHSA's to HOF 24 when you by your name when you sign it now, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, sure.
Not so sure about that. Tell me this: if we're up at Jackson Pool and it's back in the day, and you're, what are you, 60 years old? 60-year-old Bill Ross is sitting up there. How far do they have to go before they pick him to get on the team? That's what I want to know.
Now is a long time, that's for sure.
I don't know. You got to be able to still fill it up. When did you play last?
Oh gosh, geez, I don't know. It's probably a good 20 years ago.
Oh,
close 15. I don't know.
Good old beer league, right?
When I started seeing what the guys my age looked like playing out there, I thought maybe I should step back.
That's so funny you said that. Somebody said to me, we had a wedding last weekend, and they said, guys shouldn't, unless your name's John Travolta, you shouldn't dance after age 40.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. I think my brother Chris said that. But so much fun to chat, look back. Congratulations to you. Thank you for coming up to the studio. It's kind of cool to show this off to some folks. Look forward to seeing you the weekend of the Hall of Fame induction, if not around the corner somewhere.
Well, thanks. It's been a pleasure to come up, and I've always been a fan of WMOA and Johnny and his dad. So
appreciate it. Great, iconic class in 1979. Bill Ross Jr. going into the 2024 Marietta High School Athletic Hall of Fame.